Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I can tell you the exact moment my marriage ended. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was one sentence spoken in a hotel ballroom packed with people who barely knew me. Cheryl's 10-year college reunion was held in a downtown banquet hall. I went because she wanted me there, and because I still believed showing up meant something. Her old classmates were already halfway through their third round when we arrived. They pulled her in with cheers, hugs, and the kind of nostalgia that makes grown adults act like freshmen again. I stood beside her at a tall round table, listening as they traded stories about careers, breakups, promotions, vacations. Cheryl laughed louder with every drink someone asked whether she missed college. Another said she couldn't imagine being married in her 20s. Then, a woman with a bright red dress nudged Cheryl's arm. "You married right after graduation, didn't you? Do you ever feel like you rushed it?" Cheryl didn't hesitate. She lifted her glass, smiled at the group, and said, "Maybe I married too young." The table laughed. A few nodded as if she'd confessed something brave. Then the laughter faded when they remembered I was standing right beside her. Cheryl didn't look at me. She didn't need to. She'd said enough. I took a slow breath, set my drink on the table, and looked at her. "If that's how you feel, Cheryl," I said, "we can correct it." No anger, no raised voice, just a simple statement. The entire table froze. Cheryl's smile collapsed, but I didn't wait for her response. I pulled a few bills from my wallet and placed them beside my empty glass. "Have a good night." Then I walked out of the ballroom. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. This wasn't an impulsive walkout. I'd been ready for months. I had notes, dates, and comments she didn't know I remembered. I got into my car and headed straight for my brother Jacob's apartment. I didn't look back. Jacob was still awake when I knocked. He opened the door, saw my face, and didn't ask a single question. He just stepped aside and let me in. That's the thing about brothers. No explanations needed. My phone lit up nonstop. Calls, messages, all from Cheryl. I turned it face down. Around midnight, she switched from calling to sending long text chains, some angry, some confused, some begging me to come back so we can talk like adults. I didn't answer any of them. By 1 in the morning, she finally stopped. She showed up at Jacob's apartment at 9. She must have checked our shared location. Jacob opened the door only halfway. "He doesn't want to talk right now." "Move," she said, pushing past him before he could respond. She walked straight into the living room and stared at me like I was the one who had embarrassed her. "Scott, can we talk without your brother hovering?" Jacob crossed his arms but stepped back into the kitchen. Cheryl folded her arms. "You blindsided me. I made one joke and you walked out in front of everyone." I kept my tone even. "It wasn't a joke." "Yes, it was," she insisted. "People say things at reunions. You know how it is. I didn't mean it." I picked up my phone, opened the Notes app, and scrolled. "You've said it 13 times in the last 14 months, I told her. "Different people, different situations, same message." She blinked. "You wrote them down? Seriously?" I handed her the phone. "Read the dates." Her eyes moved down the list. Comments she'd made to coworkers, friends, her sister. Lines about feeling trapped, missing her freedom, wanting to redo her 20s without responsibilities. She lowered the phone. "You're twisting things. That's controlling." "No," I said. "It's the opposite. I listened while you told everyone but me how unhappy you were." I let that sink in before adding, "And you left out Jerome." Years earlier, she'd worked with him at a marketing agency. Late-night chats, flirty messages, a connection she claimed was harmless. Nothing physical happened, but the emotional line was crossed. We went to counseling. I forgave her. But I never forgot. Her face hardened. "That was years ago." "You called him your escape, Cheryl." "I didn't forget." Silence. Soft, heavy silence. "I'm not coming back," I said. "Not now. Not later." Jacob stepped back into the room. Cheryl looked between us, stunned that I meant it. I did. I went back to the house the next morning while Cheryl was at work. I didn't sneak around or hide. I walked through the front door, grabbed a stack of boxes from the garage, and started filling them with everything that was mine. Shirts, files, tools, nothing sentimental. There wasn't much left that counted anyway. By noon, Cheryl's silver sedan pulled into the driveway. She stepped inside and froze when she saw the half-packed boxes. "You can't be serious," she whispered. I told you yesterday, I said. I'm done. Before she could respond, another car pulled in. Then doors slammed. Her parents, Harold and Diane, walked in wearing the kind of faces people reserve for emergencies. Scott, sit down, Harold said. Let's talk this through. I'm good, I replied and kept packing. Cheryl rushed to her mother. He's leaving because of something stupid I said at the reunion. I turned. Tell them exactly what you said. Her jaw tightened. I already did. No, you didn't. Harold looked at me. What did she say? She told a table of her friends she may be married too young. Diane winced. Cheryl, why would you say that with Scott standing there? It was a joke. I reached into a box and pulled out a folder, printed pages from my notes and screenshots. I handed it to Harold. That wasn't the first time. He sat down and started reading. Diane read over his shoulder. Their expressions changed fast, confusion to disappointment to quiet embarrassment. Cheryl, Harold said slowly, you said all this? I didn't mean it like that, she argued. People vent. 14 times? I asked. To different people? She looked at the floor. Then I laid out the part they didn't know, the money. While Cheryl went back to school for an advanced certification, I had covered nearly everything. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, her tuition. The totals were listed clearly. Harold's eyebrows lifted as he flipped the last page. Cheryl, you saved all your income while Scott paid almost every bill? I was planning for our future, she snapped. Diane shook her head. No, you were planning for your exit. That hit her harder than anything I'd said. I taped another box shut. I'll be out in an hour. Cheryl's voice cracked. Scott, please, we can fix this. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I carried the box out to my car. Cheryl tried everything in the days after I moved out. Angry calls, late-night apologies, voice messages that swung between blaming me and begging me. I kept every response short and in writing. I wasn't going to repeat old mistakes. One afternoon, her tone shifted. Scott, I already called an attorney. We need to talk. Then talk through mine, I said. Her sigh crackled through the phone. You're making this harder than it needs to be. No, she had done that. A week later, we sat in a conference room across from each other. Her lawyer, a polished woman named Karen Lewis, greeted me with a firm handshake that didn't match the look she gave Cheryl, one that said, Don't worry, we've got the upper hand. My lawyer, Angela Peterson, arrived with a calm confidence that made Cheryl's smile fade. Angela placed 2 neat folders on the table. Nothing sloppy, nothing emotional, just facts. Karen started strong. My client is concerned about how abruptly her husband left the home. We believe he acted impulsively, and we're asking for a fair division of assets and temporary support. Angela didn't even blink. We'll get there. First, let's review context. She slid the first folder forward. Inside were my documented notes, dates, quotes, screenshots. Karen began flipping through them quickly at first, until she slowed. Cheryl's messages to friends. Her comments about being tired of being tied down. Her late-night chat history with Jerome. Cheryl stared at the table. Angela continued. Scott covered nearly all major expenses, while Cheryl saved most of her income. You'll find the summaries on the last pages. He also paid for her additional training program, totaling. Karen raised a hand. We need a moment. They stepped into the hallway. Cheryl didn't look back at me. When they returned, the confidence was gone. Karen sat down. My client is now willing to negotiate without support requests. Angela nodded. Good. Scott keeps a higher share of joint savings. Cheryl keeps her personal account. She can refinance the house if she wants it. No alimony, no future claims. It wasn't aggressive. It was balanced. Karen glanced at Cheryl, who nodded stiffly. During a break, Cheryl approached me near the window. We could stop this, she said softly. Just come home. We can work it out without them. I met her eyes. Real partners fix things before lawyers get involved. Her face tightened. There was nothing left to say. I moved into a small apartment on the north side a few days after that meeting. It wasn't fancy, no tension, no waiting for the next comment that chipped away at everything I gave. The silence didn't bother me. It felt like breathing room. I built a routine fast. Work, gym, simple meals, sleep. My mind felt clearer than it had in years. I even called an old friend, Jared, someone Cheryl used to guilt-trip me about seeing. We met for drinks. He said, "Man, we always wondered how much you were carrying at home. You look lighter." Maybe I was. But while I rebuilt, Cheryl slipped. It started with short emails. "We could fix this. Please don't give up." Then came longer ones, confessions about loneliness and confusion. She posted vague quotes online about losing what you don't appreciate. Mutual friends sent screenshots. I ignored them. Her meltdown wasn't dramatic. It was slow, quiet. That made it worse. Bills she used to never think about suddenly mattered. Her savings shrank faster than she expected. Her parents told me she had trouble sleeping and stopped showing up to weekend brunches. "She's learning how to stand on her own," Diane said quietly over the phone. "She never had to before." I didn't respond. There wasn't anything to say. The court date arrived on a Thursday morning. I showed up early with Angela. Cheryl arrived late, walking fast, avoiding everyone's eyes. She wore a neat blazer and carried a stack of papers she clearly hadn't read. Her parents sat behind her, looking worried but quiet. When the judge entered, the room settled. He reviewed the agreement Angela finalized with Cheryl's lawyer. No support. A fair split. Cheryl keeps her personal savings. I receive a larger share of joint accounts. The house will be sold unless she refinances under her own name within 60 days. The judge looked at Cheryl first. "Do you agree to these terms?" She stared at her hands. "Yes, Your Honor." He turned to me. "And you?" "Yes." Just like that, the marriage ended. When the hearing finished, everyone stood. Cheryl hesitated at the aisle, then touched my arm. "Scott, can we talk? Just for a moment." Angela gave me a look that said I didn't have to. I nodded anyway. We stepped into the hallway. Cheryl's voice shook. "I know I ruined everything. I know I hurt you. I wasn't thinking. I let my friends influence me. I kept telling myself I missed a life that never existed." I waited. I didn't interrupt. She swallowed hard. "You were good to me. Better than I deserved. I didn't see it until you walked out. I keep thinking about that night at the reunion. The look on your face. I should have stopped. I should have apologized right there." I kept my voice steady. "I believe you're sorry." Her eyes lifted. "Does that mean there's still a chance?" "No." She looked like the air left her chest. "So that's it?" "That's it," I said. "You didn't lose me at the reunion. You lost me during all the months before it. That night just made it clear." She wiped a tear with the back of her hand. "I don't know how to fix myself." "That's your work now," I said. "Not mine." We stood there for a few seconds. Then I walked back to Angela. Cheryl didn't follow. 3 months after the divorce, life felt steady in a way I hadn't expected. I joined an indoor soccer league downtown, partly for exercise and partly to have something that wasn't tied to work. That's where I met Natalie Green, a nurse with a calm confidence that filled a room without trying. We didn't rush anything. After one game, we walked to a coffee shop nearby. She paid for her drink without hesitation. A few days later, we had dinner. She asked one question that stood out. "Are you actually ready to date, or are you trying to fill a space?" I appreciated that. "I'm taking it slow." "Good," she said. Slow lasts longer. It was simple with her. No tension, no guessing, no feeling like I had to earn basic respect. One Saturday afternoon, I stopped at a grocery store near my place. I turned a corner in the produce section, and there she was, Cheryl. She looked thinner, tired, and far older than 3 months should make a person look. She froze when she saw me. "Scott," she said quietly. "Cheryl, how are you?" "Good," I said. "Really good." She nodded once. "I heard you joined some kind of sports thing, and that you've been going out." "I have." She took a breath. "Are you seeing someone?" "Yes." She held her grocery bag tighter. "What's she like?" I didn't hesitate. "Balanced." That word hit her harder than any argument we'd ever had. Cheryl looked down, blinking fast. "I know I messed everything up," she whispered. "I didn't realize how empty it would feel when you left." I didn't respond. There was nothing to add. Cheryl swallowed. "I'm trying therapy now, trying to understand why I kept pushing people away, why I thought freedom meant losing you." "I hope it helps," I said. She nodded slowly. "I hope you're happy, Scott." "I am." We stepped around each other and kept walking. Neither of us looked back. That evening, after running into Cheryl, I went home and cooked dinner. Nothing complicated. Natalie set her phone aside when she walked in, the way someone does when they're fully present. No distractions, no tension. "You okay?" she asked while helping me slice vegetables. "Yeah," I said. "Just ran into someone I used to know." She didn't press, didn't poke around for drama. She just nodded and kept chopping. That simple trust did more for me than any long apology ever could. After dinner, we sat on the couch. She rested her head lightly on my shoulder. Not clingy, not hesitant, just comfortable. "You're thinking again," she said. "Just comparing," I admitted. "To me?" she asked. "No, to who I used to be." She smiled. "You seem like someone who finally stopped carrying something heavy." Maybe she was right. A few nights later, during our walk along the river, I told her the full story. What Cheryl said at the reunion, how I left the table, how she laughed like it was nothing. Natalie didn't react with shock. She didn't gasp or call Cheryl names. She just said, "It makes sense that you left. You didn't punish her. You just stopped staying where you weren't valued." Hearing it out loud felt like closing a door gently, instead of slamming it. From that point on, life settled into something steady. Natalie and I kept things slow. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. She appreciated every small thing, and I didn't feel the need to prove my worth to her. One night, months later, I found myself thinking back to that reunion table. The lights, the noise, Cheryl's voice saying, "Maybe I married too young." The way the whole group nodded like it was normal. And my calm reply, "Never too late to fix a mistake." Back then, Cheryl thought I was talking about her. Turns out, I was talking about myself. I didn't leave a marriage that was working. I left a version of myself that tolerated being an afterthought. The divorce didn't break me. It cleared the space I needed. Cheryl walked away with her regrets. I walked away with my dignity, my peace, and a life that finally felt like mine again. Thank you for watching.